We're going to discuss Bhagavad Gita, second chapter, contents of the Gita summarized, shloka number 5. This is again the arguments of Arjuna to Lord Krishna, how he can fight with his superiors. Gurun hatva hi mahanubhavan
Gurun
hatva
hatva
hi
himanubhavan
Shreyo bhoktum bhakshamapi haloke
Shreyam bhuktum bhakshamapi loke
Hatvartha kamanstu gurun nihaiva
Atvastakaman tu gurun haiva
Bhunjiya bhogan rudhira pradigdhan
Bhunjiya bhogan rudhira pradidham.
Now, let's see. You don't know Sanskrit. You can switch off the mic now. Yeah. You don't know the Sanskrit. Okay. Now, let us see how by reading Srila Prabhupada's translation, we will be helped to understand the shloka. As we have done earlier, I'll keep on doing that exercise so that devotees can learn how to understand the Sanskrit simply by taking the help from translation of Srila Prabhupada. So I'll try to do it for every shloka. Before going to Anvay, let us go to synonyms. Gurun means superiors. So Gurun is a word in plural. Gurun, so many. Not only Dronacharya was there are other superiors also. Ahatva, not killing. And he means certainly. Mahanubhavan means great souls. Sreya, it is better. Bhoktum, to enjoy life. Bhaksha means bhiksha. If you know a little bit Hindi, then you understand. Bhaksha means by bhiksha, by begging. Api, even. Iha means in this life. So now let us go back to, and first let me also, I forgot, let me read the translation, then you understand the shloka again. It would be better to live in this world by begging than to live at the cost of the lives of great souls who are my teachers. Even though desiring worldly gain, they are superiors. If they are killed, everything we enjoy will be tainted with blood. So now we have got a feel of the shloka. Let us go back to the word meanings. Gurun ahatva hi mahanubhavan Shreyo bhoktum bhaksham apiha loke. This is the meaning of first section we are reading. Gurun ahatva. So suppose I don't fight, and in that way the superiors, mahanubhavan, those who are very much superior to me, so they will not be killed by me, and in that way I will be defeated. But and not only defeated, I would rather not fight at all. So I'll go back and live in the forest like a beggar, and that, as he's saying, Sreyo bhoktum bhaksham api haloke. So that means to enjoy iha loke, in this loka, in this planet, enjoying the exploits by killing the superiors. Better than that, much better than that, I would say Shreya means much better, superior. I feel that bhaksham api, even if I have to beg, that is better. Now, why the word api is there? Because it is extremely forbidden for a Kshatriya to take bhiksha. Bhiksha can only be taken by a Brahmana. Kshatriya, in no course, in no way, he can take bhiksha. It's absolutely not possible. But he's saying, even if I have to take bhiksha, take to the profession of bhiksha, still it is much better than enjoying kingdom which is acquired by killing superiors, like, and not only one superior but so many superiors who are my spiritual masters. Are you able to understand the shloka? Hopefully you are able to understand. Let us see further. Hatvartha kamanstu gurun niheva. So now you say, Lord may say, you don't want to kill them, but you see they have lost intelligence. Hatvartha kamanstu. Although they have come here to kill me. Gurun, all of them, they have lost their intelligence. Eva, even if they have forgotten dharma and they are finding no hesitation to kill me. So why? Because of desire for wealth. But bhunjiya bhogan rudhra pradigdhan. Rudhar, you understand? Rudhar was blood. Oh, I forgot again to show you the meaning of. Let us go further. Hatva means killing, artha means gain, kaman means desiring, tu means but, and gurun means superiors, iha means in this world. So What is again point? Gurun hatva tu iha eva rudhira pratigdhan. Arth kaman bhogan bhunji. Oh, sorry, I was reading the convey. I'm getting confused. Hatvarth kamans tu gurun iheva. All these spiritual masters have come here desiring wealth. So, even if they, am I making a mistake? Yes. Yes. Even, no, I'm not making a mistake. Even they are desiring worldly gain, they are my superiors. Hatvartha kamastu gurun iheva. That means they have come here, hatvartha. They have come here to kill me with the desire to get material gains too. But they are my superiors. Now you're able to understand the line. Hatvartha kamastu gurun iheva. Iha gurun iheva. And you don't want to kill them, but they are very much desiring to kill you. I'm somehow that am I able to communicate myself? So now, eva means even if they are coming here to kill me, but if we kill them, then and enjoy the kingdom, then bhunjiya and enjoy bhunjiya bhogan rudhira pratigdhan. Bhunjiya means if we kill them, and if we enjoy the kingdom, then that kingdom will be tainted with blood. Mixed with blood. Pradigdhan. Rudhira means blood. And pradigdhan will be tainted or mixed with blood. It's a very heavy word which he is using. Now let us see the Anvaya again. He Mahanubhavan Gurun Ahatva. He means certainly. Mahanubhavan means great people. Gurun means superiors. Ahatva. Definitely there is no doubt about this. Ihaloke, in this world, bhaksham bhoktum api sreyaha. Are you able to understand this point? Now when you see the Anvaya, it becomes very easy. Certainly, not killing the gurus and the Mahanubhavans who have very great influence in this world, it is better for a Kshatriya like me to beg instead of bhoktumapi. That means instead of killing them and trying to enjoy the kingdom. That is much better. Now, very interesting. This is the first statement of Arjuna, that this will be much better for me even as a Kshatriya to beg than to kill my superiors. And in the second part, he gives the reason for that. He says, Gurun hatva tu iha eva rudhira pradigdhan arth kaman bhogan bhunjiya. That although they are desiring arth kaman, it means although they are desiring wealth, but and they want to kill me, but if we kill them, Gurun hatva tu iha eva. But if I kill these superiors, then whatever I will enjoy, that will be tainted with blood. So you understand the reason? First he says, if we don't kill the superiors, then even if we have to beg as a Kshatriya, it is good for me. And in the second part, he explains why it is good for me, because even if as a Kshatriya we kill them and we enjoy the rule which is supposed to be done by Kshatriya, but that ruling of the kingdom will be tainted by the blood of the superiors. That means it will be tainted by the sin of killing the superiors. Is it too difficult? Is too much Sanskrit? Are you able to understand? I'll repeat again. And you can see that, suppose somebody kills a very great exalted personality and he gets some wealth. Can he actually enjoy that wealth? No, because there is a heavy sin involved in getting that wealth. So any person who tries to enjoy wealth which is based on sin, he can actually never be happy. This is a Siddhanta. So he's saying that even if we get the kingdom, they will be killed by us, and killing the superiors, sin will be upon us, and that is the meaning of the word tainted with blood. Now, can you understand? There is something called Vyangya. Vyangya, you understand? That direct meaning should not be understood. It's not that everywhere in the kingdom there will be blood of the superiors. When he's saying, अरे भाई रक्त हमारा ये जो राज्य है वो रक्त रंजित होगा. It's not that the kingdom, all over the kingdom you will find the blood of Dronacharya and Kripacharya. The idea is that the sin of killing the gurus and spiritual masters will be on our head while we are trying to enjoy this kingdom. Are you able to understand? This is called Vyanga. Vyanga means indirect meaning, like that. So there's so many things you will understand in Bhagavatam also. The direct meaning doesn't make sense here. That is that killing. Where is your blood on your body or the kingdom? But you have to understand it means that it means that sin of killing the superiors. Okay. So now we go forward. Today I am somehow maybe not too coherent. Just so many things got disturbed me, but I'm trying to do my best. Translation we'll read again. It would be better to live in this world by begging than to live at the cost of the lives of great souls who are my teachers. Even though desiring worldly gain, they are superiors. If they are killed, everything we enjoy will be tainted with blood. Gita Bhushan commentary. How will you maintain your life if you do not have a desire for your own kingdom? This is the question by a supposed question by Lord Krishna. It is better to subsist by begging for food without having to kill the elders, even though that is condemned for the Kshatriya, because though it is a cause of infamy in this life, it will not create impediments in the next life. Beautiful point. The word Sharia itself means that you may be in a lower situation in this world, but later on, you will get a very great thing, very great benefit. That is the meaning of Shreya. So now, trying to understand the meaning of Shreya, we can, taste the meaning of Shreya. Shreya means you may put yourself in a disadvantageous situation now, but you will get a very great advantageous situation in the future. So he says, I am even ready to accept infamy. And that Lord Krishna will say, somebody who has been famous, infamy is worse than death. It will come now. Krishna will speak that. And so I am even ready to accept. Arjuna is saying, I am even ready to accept infamy. What kind of infamy? That this person, this fellow has accepted a profession of begging. It's very, very bad. Very bad. Just like a person who's a strong brahmachari and somebody says, no, he's associating with prostitutes. Something like that. Just very bad. Oh, he's a pure brahmachari and you give him that kind of allegation. Very bad for a brahmachari. If a person is what to say, lampat, what do you say in English? I don't remember. Who is associating too much with women and like that, they say he's associating with prostitutes or something. Who cares? Anyhow, everybody knows about it. But if somebody is a reputed brahmachari and you put that allegation on a sannyasi, if you put that allegation, it's a very bad thing, is it not? Similarly, I'm giving a very gross example to make you understand for a Kshatriya, it is worse than death to actually beg. And you remember that. I will give an example. Though it's a very nice point you will understand. In the fight of Mahabharata, Duryodhan was very angry on, what is that? Bhishma Pitama. That's a very nice point. So then he said, you are not fighting sincerely. So he said, okay, I'll take 5 arrows and from tomorrow I'll kill the Pandavas. So Duryodhan did not have faith in Bhishma Dev, so he kept the arrows with him. So then Krishna was very much in anxiety. Arjuna said, why are you in anxiety? Krishna is in anxiety, devotees are free. So no, Bhishma Dev has taken a vow and he has taken those arrows to kill all of you. I'm worried about it. So now you, Arjuna, you go and ask Duryodhana because you have one benediction to be asked from Duryodhana. You know that point. One time he had saved the life of Duryodhana. So then he goes there and then Duryodhana asks, what do you want? Do you want the kingdom back? I said, no, kingdom we don't want back. We don't want any donation. We are Kshatriyas. We're going to fight, and without fight, we're not going to have it like that. So then he said, you give me those 5 arrows. So like that. So you see, he could have got the whole kingdom in donation, but he is not after that. So, but before the fight, he's thinking like this. This was the incident after the fight has started. So I'm just saying that it was not the nature of, as a Kshatriya, of Arjuna to beg at all. Absolutely, he could not beg. So it was very despicable for him. But he said, even if it is so bad for me, people have criticized karenge. They will criticize me. But still, in the next life, I will not have any sin. I'll have pure life and I'll be in an advantage situation like that. So that's why he's saying Shreya. You should also reject Bhishma and others, though they are teachers, since they are also contaminated with the arrogance for war and have thus lost the discrimination of right and wrong by association with Duryodhana and others, who are using this war to commit violence to you and take away your kingdom by deceit. So what is the argument of Krishna here? That you are saying they are Guru and they are Mahanubhav. But my dear Arjuna, try to understand their Mahanubhav has been lost by the association of Dhritarashtra's son, that means Duryodhana. They have lost any sense and now they are very much eager to fight with you, even to kill you. So how can you say that it is a sin to kill them? That is a point which Lord Krishna is explaining here. It is said in the Smriti, Guror api avaliptasya karya karyam ajanatah utpatha pratipannasya parityago vidhiyate. Guror api, even if a person is spiritual master, one should reject the guru who is proud, does not know proper behavior of right and wrong, and who becomes addicted to sinful life. So karya karyam ajanatah. Karya means what has to be done. Akarya means what is not to be done. So they have lost sense now here. Is it? Lord Krishna is giving that evidence from Mahabharata. Utpatha pratipannasya. Utpatha means wrong. Wrong. He is pratipanna means he is taking shelter of utpat. Wrong path. Wrong path. Same like that. Parityago vidhiyate. Vidhiyate means it's an injunction of Shastra that one should give up a spiritual master who have avaliptasya. That means who has become addicted to sinful life, who does not know what is to be done and what is not to be done, who was taking shelter of a path which is wrong, which is not the path of dharma. Then parityago vidhiyate. It is an injunction of Shastra that you should give them up. So you see how it is nicely put. So how can you say it is Shreyas? How can you say that Gurus should not be killed? They are not Mahanubhavas now, like this. But they have the most outstanding powers among all persons, Mahanubhavan, caused by their study of the Vedas and their brahmachari life. Who is that person? Bhishma Pitama. And obviously he was knowledgeable in Vedas. So Mahanubhav, Anubhav means prowess. Prowess means power. So Mahanubhav means they have great power, they have great prowess. Not only that they are in the position of superiors, but they are also very learned and they are very, very powerful. Having brought time, lust and other factors under control, they are free from the faults arising from these factors. Note, Bhishma took a vow never to marry so that he would not have heirs. Heirs means sons to the throne. Bhishma had the boon of being able to die when he chose. So all these things is quite exalted. So that shows his Mahanubhav nature. Is the audio clear? Is the audio reaching to you? Okay. So I was saying net is having a problem. Something. Okay. So this is the meaning of the word Mahanubhav. Whole life not getting married, and you must remember he was not staying in brahmachari ashram. It's quite interesting. It's not that he was staying in brahmachari ashram away from Mataji's. He was living in a palace, in a palatial building, in all the opulences and all the luxury. And also he was getting proposals also. Is it not that he got proposal from Amba or some Ambalika, somebody proposed also, beautiful woman, and he had all the power. And actually if he wanted, he could have captured the kingdom and nobody could have objected also. And he had all the knowledge of dharma. But in spite of all this, he kept to his vow of brahmacharya. Brahmachari is being an aspiring brahmachari. I know that if there are too much distractions in terms of Matajis and all this, it's very difficult to keep your mind steady. He's an honest person. Any honest person will say like this. But he could maintain that by mind and body and words. He could maintain that. So he has so much power. And you know that he had a benediction from Shantanu Maharaj. You know that his father, that you can live as long as you want. Nobody can defeat you. All those benedictions he had. So Arjuna is saying that he are very, very great and greatly powerful. But Bhishma himself has said, very nice statement. So now this is Krishna's argument. He is saying that no, they are not under lust and all those things, Arjuna. They are so powerful, you see, brahmachari and all that. But then Krishna gives the argument, which is by Bhishma Dev himself. Very interesting commentary. Arthasya purusho daso dasastu artho nakasyachit iti satyam maharaja Badhosmi arthe na kauravai. I must admit that what I gave pravachan in Hindi, I have completely forgotten. So now when I'm reading it, it seems ever fresh to me. Shastra is like this. I completely forgot what I spoke in Hindi. Reading the English is very, very tasty for me. Arthasya purusho dasa. The Purusha, the human being, is the dasa of, or is das of or servant of money. Dasastu artho na kasyachit. Money is not the servant of human being. Got an amazing point if you actually reflect upon it. Suppose we have money, so we keep it in the locker very nicely. We think it should not get wasted. Nobody should steal it. Money is not thinking about us, is it not? And then to get the money, we have to serve so much, is it not? And somehow somebody steals it, then we are worrying about it. So who is servant? Money is a servant. Sorry, the person is a servant and money is the master. It's an amazing point. What Vishnu? Nobody actually thinks like it. No, I don't think anybody who's earning money, he would have actually thought about it like this. That's why devotees are very careful when they deal with money. Voice is not clear. Well, if Krishna has given me the voice which I have, I cannot change it. And if there is some problem with technology, then that is also I cannot change it. So Krishna has to be blamed or technology has to be blamed. So maybe this problem, I don't know. Audio is coming clear? Anish Prabhu, it's okay? So there's a problem at your end probably. What can you do? So where we were, yes. This is a very beautiful point. That's why devotees deal with money only in relationship in service to Krishna. Otherwise, we keep on aggrandizing it. I'll give a nice example. One of my relatives had a good business and they lost the money somehow by whatever. And money is not crying for her. She is crying for money. So who is the servant? Is it not? Very clear. Is it not? Money, the devotee is a servant or that person is a servant of money. Money is not crying. So like this. So we have to be very careful if in this life we think of aggrandizing the money, will be lost. It's a fact. We will be lost. So when dealing with money, a devotee is very careful that he only deals money for the purpose of preaching Krishna consciousness or so that he can execute bhakti. Otherwise, money can bewilder us very much. Prabhupada has said somewhere else, elsewhere also that those who are preaching Krishna consciousness, they will receive money. But if they use even a farthing, a small amount also for sense gratification, they will be bound by that. It belongs to Krishna, should be used for Krishna's service. Just like a teller, a person, a cashier cannot even keep 100 rupees for himself. Iti satyam maharaja. Oh Raja Yudhishthir, definitely it is satya. There is no doubt about it. Baddhosmi arthena kaurava. That's why I'm bound because I have accepted remuneration from them, because I have accepted help from them economically. I'm bound to serve the Kauravas even though I know this is a dharma. So man is a servant of wealth, but wealth is not a servant of anyone. This is the truth, O king. I have been bound up by the wealth, by the Kauravas. Therefore, what is the great authority of those who have sold their souls out of greed for wealth? I think this is clear now. So that you may say they have Mahanubhava, they are brahmacharis and whatever, but now they are on the path of a dharma just because they have sold themselves for money. That's why they should be killed in battle. This is Krishna's argument. Now, this is Arjuna's argument. Even if, Rahul Prabhu, I will request you, if you can color them differently, it will be nice. Maybe the arguments of Krishna can be put, blue? I don't know what will look nice there. And Arjuna's can be yellow, not yellow, but maybe it can be kept black or something, or red or something. Then we can actually distinguish which is Krishna's argument, or maybe you can put a picture of Krishna, little Krishna. You put a picture of Krishna, you put a picture of Arjuna, it will look more nice. Which is argument of Krishna, which is argument of Arjuna. Because if we reverse them, it will become complicated. So one must know what is argument of Krishna, one should argument of what is the argument of Krishna. Now this argument of Arjuna. Even if I kill these gurus who are unqualified because of their desire for wealth, arth kaman, and I enjoy in this world, I cannot enjoy the next life. For those enjoyments will be mixed with their blood. So now another subtle point has to be understood here. If somehow that he enjoys here, will anyone see blood of the superiors spread out anywhere in the kingdom? Answer is no. The blood all will be cleared. So the point what he's trying to say, even if I enjoy here, but I will be on my head, there will be sin of killing the superiors. So in my next life, I will not be able to enjoy. Okay. Like another example, some astrologer told me, we have astrologer here also, he will confirm that one of my relatives was told, any business you do, anywhere you will be good for you. But your husband will give you trouble. And that person is crying only because of her husband. He loses the money. The husband also is good in the sense he's very nice person, but he's not so smart. So he loses the money and this and that. Is like spaced out, so to speak, spaced out. So you see, both the things are there. Sometimes we don't understand. Both the things are there. Whatever we have done in previous life comes to us, is it not? Everybody understands it. And it's not that whatever we are doing in this life, we'll all enjoy immediately now. It also doesn't work like that. Just like you work for 1 month, then you get a salary after 1 month, not immediately. Like that. Also in banks, we invest and then we get the returns after some time. Is it not like this? So we know that in this life also we see that when a person invests something, then he gets returns later on, not immediately. This is happening like that. So the idea is that he's thinking about a person like Arjuna who's on the path of dharma. He always think about the future based on Shastra, how he should behave so that he should get a better life next life. People nowadays are like ostrich who just want to hide their head within the sand and think, oh, there is no danger, there is no danger. But we should not be like this. A person who follows dharma, he thinks about, okay, even if I don't enjoy now, I'll have much better facilities later on. A shloka is there, I'm forgetting the shloka. Agre dhavati dhavati. Agre dhavati means it runs in front of you. Whatever knowledge you have given to others, whatever money which you have given to others, it is running after you, running in front of you. Agre dhavati dhavati. That means that if you have given something previously, it comes back to us in this life. Whatever we have given. If you have given pain to others, agre dhavati dhavati, it will come back to you. It is not pure enjoyment because it has been obtained through killing them. Though contaminated with pride and fighting, they are still worthy of respect. This statement manifests because of his continued acceptance of them as gurus. So, he is, even if they are on the wrong side, even if the path of adharma, he is not able to forget that they are their spiritual masters. That you must understand, this is the natural quality of a pure devotee, that is always, the Sanskrit is kritagya. He is always grateful for those who have helped them in any way. Maharaj was explaining that sometimes if there is a trina, you understand, grass on somebody's hairs, and somebody tells there is a grass on your hair, please remove it. So even if a person has done that kind of small positive act towards him, a person who's actually grateful will remember. Just like Dhruv Maharaj remembered that his mother Suniti had told him to worship Lord Vishnu 36,000 years later when he was going back to Godhead, and then by his simple desire, the mother also was going back to Godhead. So this is the nature of a devotee, that he's grateful. Guru Maharaj was mentioning about Srila Prabhupada, how Srila Prabhupada, when he was doing kirtan, even if a person would just notice the kirtan, the Prabhupada was ready to give his life for him. There is a nature of a devotee that he's very grateful for any person doing any service. That we should see in our own life also, how much we are becoming grateful. This is a nature of a devotee. So now, this we are seeing in Arjuna is not simply of a weakness of heart, but is natural softness of heart, being a pure devotee of Krishna. This you will see in the quality of Mother Draupadi also. You must have read in first canto, Ashwatthama killed her sons brutally, but still she could not forget. No. He's our spiritual master because he's son of our spiritual master, like that. And also she says, no, I am crying, but I do not want Kripi to cry. Kripi, you understand? Kripi is wife of Dronacharya. I don't want her to cry like me. Very nice point. Purport. According to scriptural codes, a teacher who engages in an abominable action and has lost his sense of discrimination is fit to be abandoned. This we have just now discussed in the commentary. How, in what situation the spiritual master should be given up. Do you remember that? Yes. Bhishma and Drona were obliged to take the sides of Duryodhan because of his financial assistance although they should not have accepted such a position simply on financial considerations. This also we have discussed. Arthasya daso, that shloka. Under the circumstances, they have lost the respectability of teachers. Very easy to understand. But Arjuna thinks that nevertheless they remain his superiors, and therefore to enjoy material profits after killing them would mean to enjoy spoils tainted with blood. Again, I'll explain this point, what Srila Prabhupada is explaining here. It means, yes, they will enjoy here temporarily, but later on they will have to suffer for this heavy sin of killing the superiors. In this regard, a small story is there, very nice and interesting story. A sadhu, a nice sadhu, very exalted sadhu, was going with his assistant, brahmachari assistant, and he saw a Rajkumar, kya kehte hain isko? Prince, a prince enjoying very nicely. And then he said, "May you live a long life." What? May you live a long life. Anyways, the student kept quiet. Then he went ahead. Then there was a brahmachari who was doing austerities. Then he said, "May you die immediately." You have heard the story? Very interesting. What? He was surprised. And then he went ahead and he found a butcher. Then he said, what he said? Nah, don't die, don't live. Don't die, don't live. Yes, butcher. And then he went ahead, then he met a saintly person. He says, "Live or die. You may live or you may die." I will explain the meaning of this. Very beautiful point, very nicely. So then the student asked, "Why you gave this strange benediction to these four kinds of people?" So then he said, Jivova Marava. Yes, Sanskrit. This is English class, Mataji. I have to speak in English. So then first was Prince. May you live a long life. The reason is he's enjoying his senses very nicely. Next life will be very bad for him, hellish. So let him enjoy very nicely. This is for Prince. Second was a brahmachari. He's doing austerity. So let him die. Otherwise, later on, he may just fall down. So better let him die now so that he will enjoy Swarga later nicely. Then the butcher, he's killing animals. What is his life now? Miserable life. Bad life. And if he dies, then he will go to hell. So better he neither dies, neither lives. And last of all, the sadhu, the saintly man, live or die. While living, you are serving Krishna. And when you die, then you leave a body, you go back to Krishna. For you, there is no difference. You're serving here and you're serving there. Like Srila Prabhupada used to give an example. A typewriter in an earth will also say cut, 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 cut. And if you take it to Swarga, it will also take cut, 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 cut. And if you take hell also, then say cut, 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 cut. Similarly, a devotee, heaven, hell, anywhere, he will chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So, small story which I mentioned regarding this point. But Arjuna is thinking in this regard that what I wanted to say, that if we kill them here, we may enjoy like that prince very nicely, but later on we'll have to suffer hellish conditions. So I'll end here. Some things we learned here about Arjuna. If you have any questions, I'll second. Yes, please. Allow you to speak. You have any question? No, Kadish Prabhu? No. One second. I just allow you to unmute. Yes, Mataji. If you have any question, please. The point is, so many times this question has been asked, that why Bhishma Pitama, although he's Mahajan means he knows bhakti to the highest extent, he's a pure devotee, Mahabhagavat, why he's taking the side of adharma? You see, you have to analyze Bhishma Dev's character in a very subtle way. As a warrior, as a powerful person, Lord wants to show that even if a person is very powerful, Mahanubhava, like Bhishma Dev, but if he's on the path of adharma, he will be destroyed. This is one thing. But if you see him as a devotee, Lord also wanted to show that how when he is leaving his body, even on the bed of arrows, can you imagine that bed of arrows? I am not sitting on a bed of arrows. I'm just sitting on a very cushioned bed. Is it not even a wooden bed? Wooden bed means a wooden table direct. wooden chair directly. There's a wooden chair and there's something to put very nicely. There's a cushion, and then sometimes devotees put cushion near the feet also. Such nice cushion, and then we can speak something. Is it not? And just imagine if you have a seat of arrows. Can you just think about it? Arrows everywhere, almost everywhere through his body. Just one arrow through our body. Can we speak something? Can we hear something? Can we eat also anything? Nothing. And still he's able to speak. Not just simply tolerating that thing. Krishna completely made him forget that pain as long as he was speaking on dharma. And you see that when he's speaking on dharma, you will read in Bhagavatam, people, that means not people, sorry, rishis from all over the world, all over the universe had practically come to hear from Dhaumya, Vasishtha, all of them had come. So if he was not a great devotee, why would they come to hear? So externally a devotee may be situated in a very precarious situation, very strange situation, but internally he's a devotee. And that is has to, I was about to say this point. What a person is doing is not so much important in bhakti. Most important is why he's doing. You see, even when Krishna is fighting with him, Krishna is very nicely enjoying the arrows which are being pierced through his body, Krishna's body. It is also a lila, it's a spiritual body, but he manifests like that. It's a spiritual offering of Bhishma Dev to Krishna, and Krishna enjoys it. You will read it when we're going to discuss that in Bhagavatam. It's very, so that's what I'm saying. Vaishnavera Kriya Mudra Vigna Bhujaya. It's very difficult to understand how a devotee behaves. Just like you see, Yamaraj is a devotee, and he allows people to be killed, and not killed, he kills himself, but cut and do all kind of, inflicts all kind of punishments on conditioned soul who are part and parcel of Krishna. Would you like to do that service? Yes, Mataji. Would you like to do that service of being Yamraj? You're silent. It's very difficult. It's very difficult. So you see, as he's behaving like a demigod. And my dear devotees, Yamraj is not a mixed devotee. Yamraj is a pure Mahajan, pure devotee. No material desires. So it's very complicated, very difficult to understand that the behavior of pure devotees when they act here. Very difficult. But we should take the version of Bhagavatam. There is a pure devotee, and he has been engaged by the Lord in the past steps in one way or another. Very interesting. I'll give an example. There's a group of devotees. I think they have done some play in ISKCON Noida also. They did a very beautiful play here. So one Mataji in that play, at one point of the play, she became Putana. And at another point of the play, she became Devaki. Same Mataji. In the play, she became Putana. First she was Devaki, and then she became Putana. So, and then we know that she's a devotee. Nice devotee. That is the whole point. Now you understand? So they are playing the parts. And in the pastime of the Lord, they may behave in a strange way, but sometimes difficult to understand their external behavior. But you must remember they are pure devotees of Krishna. Okay? That's why you see Krishna, it's a beautiful whole episode that Krishna caused Yudhishthira Maharaj to have lamentation, just like he's doing it to Arjuna, so that on account of it, Krishna is telling Yudhishthira Maharaj thinking, oh, I am the cause of the war, I'll go to sin, I've committed sin, all those things. Nothing can absolve me of the sin. Just like Arjuna is thinking now. Who's inspiring? Krishna Adbhut Karmana. And Krishna is giving him instruction. You see, somebody is depressed and Krishna personally is giving him motivational talks. But he's not coming out of the depression. Why? Because Krishna himself did not allow him to understand. Beautiful. From outside he's giving instruction. From inside he's not allowing him to understand. Then Yudhishthira Maharaj says, Arey Baba, what you can speak? You are my younger brother. And then he says, okay, I am your younger brother. But you accept Bhishma Dev? You have faith that Bhishma Dev understands dharma? He will ascertain whether this war was dharmic or not dharmic. Yes, we will accept him. Then he goes there. Then Bhishma Pitama speaks dharma. First point. On the bed of arrows. Second point. And he fixes his eyes on Krishna. Krishna, particularly, because he cannot move his head also, Krishna situates himself near the feet of Bhishma Dev. Because he externally is junior to Bhishma Dev, so that Bhishma Dev can very easily see Krishna when he's leaving his body. So you see, all those things are, how to say, Krishna is the director and they are all players. Now you understand the whole thing? Anta bhala to sab bhala. So a person who is able to remember Krishna with so lovingly, He's a pure devotee. And I would request you to read the prayers of Bhishma. And we'll discuss in Bhagavatam also how he's not remembering Krishna who's in front of him. Rather, he's remembering Krishna who was fighting with him. With his hairs smeared with what is that? Balu, sand which was raised by the hoofs of horses and like that, and was working tirelessly to save Arjuna. He's remembering the love of the Lord for Arjuna like that. So from all this, we understand that Bhishma Dev is a pure devotee, completely deeply attached to Krishna. So all those things we will understand when we read Bhagavatam. What is the practical lesson from this lecture in today's condition? Nothing. Just we are wasting our time. No, we are learning the practical lesson first, that a pure devotee is grateful. Then we have learned a practical lesson that yes, the spiritual master must be followed in all circumstances, but the spiritual master must not fall down. If the spiritual master tells you the mercy is in the bottle of wine, I don't want to take his name, but there is a so-called spiritual master who says mercy is in the bottle of wine. I don't know what kind of mercy is, where that mercy will take you. So that kind of spiritual master one should not accept. And also the lesson which we are learning from Arjuna's case is that a devotee is always grateful for whatever a person has done to him. These are things which you are learning from this shloka. Okay? I hope I did not waste your time. And you must understand, when we read Shastra, you may not always get a lesson, but you relish what the talk is. We are not being told to fight like Arjuna or with the superior or something like that. But we see and appreciate the qualities of Arjuna. So sometimes we will get a lesson, that's a very important point, and sometimes we just relish the commentaries. Relish the attitude and the internal meaning of what the shloka is. And obviously, last lesson which is very important, which actually Arjuna is saying is very important. If we commit sinful activities here, we may get some temporary enjoyment, but in the longer run, in his next life, or will not be good for us. This is very important lesson. If nothing is understood, this is very important lesson. This cannot be neglected. If we enjoy life, so-called enjoyment in this life based on sinful activities can never lead to a good life in this world. Okay, anything else somebody want to say, ask, or chat or something? Okay, so shall I stop here and allow you to have prasadam. Just prasadam thing. Somebody says, oh, I'll eat a rasgulla. Very nice. Yes, my dear Prabhu, but you will have to take birth again if it is not prasadam. So now you understand. This is the lesson we're going to have it here. That we must always be conscious about Shreya. Shreya means what will be my next future benefit. And that highest benefit is done by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. My teacher Milind Prabhu has reminded me that we are supposed to do Parayan. Thank you. Yes, I forgot. And then Rahul Prabhu was like, oh no, why you had to just say no? But yes, we will do Parayan. Because simply by doing Parayan of Bhagavad Gita, we go back to Godhead. Have you not heard this? So those who want to do that, they can tolerate the hunger for 5-10 minutes, maybe more. Okay.